To speak of suburbia is to emphasize a way of life that suburbs presumably foster, in contrast to an urban way of life. In situation comedies, suburbia is where folks chat over the back fence, whether in suburban Detroit in the American television show Home Improvement, 1991 to 99, or in suburban London in the British show The Good Life, 1975 to 78. Upscale suburbia has a less happy side in films like Ordinary People, The Ice Storm, and Far From Heaven that reflect a take on suburbia associated with American writers like John Cheever and John Updike. Suburbia is also where Russian spies in The Americans, 2013 to 18, find they can best blend into U.S. society. Studies of U.S. suburbs that try to bypass the stereotype most often use a quick statistical shortcut. The U.S. Census conveniently defines metropolitan areas as one or more heavily urbanized counties with a large city at the focus. Suburbs are defined by subtraction as inside the metro area but outside the municipal boundaries of the core city. By this measure, there were more suburbanites than either city people or country people by 1970, and more suburbanites than the other two groups put together by 2000. This rough distinction works reasonably well for social scientists doing comparative analysis across metropolitan regions. In the later 20th century, it usually matched local thinking. Dayton, Ohio was the city, Kettering and Trotwood were suburbs. Portland, Oregon was the city. Beaverton and Lake Oswego were suburbs. It is less useful in the third decade of the 21st century. One problem is that the Census Bureau repeatedly adds outlying counties that meet its very technical criteria for metropolitan inclusion, even though the residents of Bradford, Ohio, are unlikely to think of any part of their town as a Dayton suburb. The same is true for Carson, Washington, and Portland. Some counties are so large as to make a shorthand look silly. Are the mosquitoes of Minnesota's Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness also Duluth suburbanites? A related problem is that some core cities are small and tightly bounded, and others have expansive boundaries. Chicago annexed huge tracts of occupied and unoccupied territory in 1889, and then basically stopped growing, allowing ring after ring of suburban municipalities to grow. But San Antonio kept absorbing outlying territory well into the 21st century. The unified city of Winnipeg, 1972, takes in nearly all peripheral or suburban development, but the core city of Adelaide has only 2% of the metropolitan population. Every nation has different traditions, rules, and political balance, making comparisons both challenging and of doubtful value. An alternative is to devise a functional definition that ignores political boundaries to capture some essential facet of low-density suburban development. Canadian researchers used patterns of transit used to divide metropolitan areas into active cores, lots of biking and walking, transit suburbs, automobile suburbs, and exurbs, or low-density fringe development. They concluded that 2/3 of all Canadians live in suburbs, to the surprise or even consternation of many compatriots. Australian researchers have found roughly the same proportion. Other experts try to categorize U.S. neighborhoods by the average age of housing. For example, were more housing units in a zip code built before 1980 or after 1980? Or by a combination of economic and demographic factors, yielding variously 5, 6, or 10 types. Self-confident journalist David Brooks generalized about lifestyles to distinguish among crunchy granola suburbs like Tacoma Park, Maryland, bistro world suburbs of comfortable professionals like Bethesda, Maryland, and middle-class cul-de-sac suburbs like much of Fairfax County, Virginia. Alas, what may be helpful for North America is seldom useful elsewhere. Every nation uses its own census categories and geographies, so statistical approaches work within a country, but not for comparisons across national borders. Language also gets in the way, even among English-speaking nations. People in Britain apply suburb to individual districts and towns based heavily on social evaluation rather than precise statistics. Australians are generally